This week we will be reading from the book The Bible Stories in 5 Minutes. 2 miracles. This is a story of 2 great miracles of how Jesus showed that he truly was the Son of God by his power over nature. Jesus sent his disciples out to teach the people about the coming of God's kingdom. When they returned, they wanted to tell him all about everything they had seen and heard and done. But people were coming from all around them. The disciples didn't even have time to eat. Jesus saw how very tired and hungry they were. So he said, "Let's go away by ourselves so you can rest." They were near the Sea of Galilee. So they all got into a boat and sailed to the other side. But the crowds of people saw where they were going. They ran along the shore so that they could reach the other side, even before Jesus and his disciples. Jesus stepped out of the boat and saw all the people. His heart hurt for them because they knew they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began to heal their sick and teach them. Now, the place where Jesus was teaching was out in the country along from towns. So when evening came, the disciples went to Jesus and said, "This place is a wilderness and it's already late. Send the people away so that they can go into the villages and buy food for themselves." "They don't need to go away," Jesus said. "You give them something to eat." But Philip, one of the 12 disciples, says, "It would take more than a year's pay to buy even a little bit of food bread for this many people." There were about 5,000 men gathered there, plus all the women and children. So Jesus said, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." After searching, one of the disciples named Andrew, who was Peter's brother, said, "There's a boy here who has 5 small loaves and 2 fish. But how can we feed so many people with so little food?" Jesus simply said, "Bring them here to me." Now there was plenty of grass in that place. So Jesus said to the disciples, "Have the people to sit down in groups of about 50. The people sat down and waited to see what would happen. Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. Then, looking up to heaven, he gave thanks for them. He broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. Jesus also divided the fish among all the people. Everyone ate as much as they wanted, and the disciples still picked up 12 baskets full of leftover pieces, all from 5 small loaves and 2 little fish. After this, Jesus told the disciples to get back in the boat. He wanted them to sail on ahead of him to the other side, while he said goodbye to the crowds of people. After the people left, Jesus went up into the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. The disciples' boat was already in the middle of the sea. The wind began to blow, and the sea was churning. The wind and the waves battered against the disciples' boat. Around 3 in the morning, Jesus came walking out toward his disciples in the boat. He was walking on water. When the disciples saw him, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they cried out in fear. But Jesus called out to them, "Have courage, it is I, don't be afraid." Could it really be Jesus? The disciples wondered. "Lord, if it's really you," Peter cried out, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said. So Peter carefully climbed out of the boat. He set first one foot and then the other on top of the water. Then Peter was walking on water too. But when he looked around him and he saw the wind and the waves, he was afraid and he began to sink. Terrified, Peter cried out, "Lord, save me!" Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and pulled Peter up. "Why did you doubt?" Jesus asked him. Jesus and Peter stepped onto the boat. As soon as they did, the wind stopped howling and the sea calmed down. The disciples all worshiped Jesus and said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Jesus was no ordinary man. He was and is the Son of God. He was with God before the earth was created, and as the Son of God, Jesus has power over all creation. And the good news is the one who controls creation is the same one who loves you and me. Jesus was with God in the beginning. All things were created through him, and apart from him, not one thing was created that has been created. And that's found in John 1, verses 2 and 3. And I'm hot. I'm going to drink me some ice cold iced tea. I hope you have enjoyed that story, and I hope you'll come back next week for another fun story. And remember, keep reading.